against, 34 scoring chances, I think.
Getting a pretty high event line.
Yeah, at least they're high event. Yeah, I guess high event's not, it's good enough against New Jersey.
Yeah, but that top end has been awful, though.
Have they ever? I don't know, maybe ROR got better. Maybe ROR got some R&R.
Went and visited the vitamin shop. Avery, you're going to do the countdown, Avery? Leave your phone there, it's loud.
It's not that loud.
Okay, does. Okay.
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 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy, joining me for the next hour to talk about just how great that lineup from Tommy Nation was last night. Mr. Joshua, or single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah. First of all, like 6:58 p.m. Eastern time, Jake's like, oh man, it's gonna be awful to get run over by the Chalk Blackhawks. Boom, boom, beep, boom. You look at his winning lineup. Blackhawks. Boom, boom, bee-hoo. Good one, Jake.
I think Jake was just like, we do that all the time. Like, we psych ourselves out saying, hey, there's no way Calgary 2 will get there tonight or something like that, when we're playing a bunch of Calgary 2. But no, Jake actually didn't have very much Chicago last night.
Actually, he didn't. He was way under the field.
Yeah. Chicago was one of the chalkier spots. He was way under the field, came in, I think he said it about 6% Chicago. And it was enough for the takedown. He won the $15 on DraftKings last night for the 10K using the Chicago Blackhawks, and Dallas won. Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson, man, those guys just keep getting it done. I don't know. There have been a lot of lines over this season that have come together. Calgary's top line, we'll talk about them. Nashville's top line, Carolina's top line at times, that they've seemed to have come on strong, but have kind of fallen off. That Dallas top line, like, they've just been absolutely brutalizing opponents all season long. I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. What do you make of that top line here, Josh?
Yeah, and they did a fair bit of damage on the power play, which is why I like them. But man, their 5-on-5 numbers really good too. They're just rolling through teams. I don't know. Like, I don't understand the hate. Like, I understand the hate on old Dallas one, like a few years ago when it was Sagan, Ben Radulov. Like, anytime they're chalky, they'd never do anything. But, like, I can't say it enough. Like, Robertson's one of the most underrated young stars in the league. He just doesn't get the publicity like other young players like Brady Tkachuk or people like that. I don't know why. Maybe because they're in Texas, which is pretty much a different country anyway. So, I don't know. But that top line is really, really good.
Yeah, speaking of Jason Robertson, I was doing a little bit of research for him for some season-long stuff. And over the last 2 years, he's like top 3 amongst all skaters in hockey's WAR, wins above replacement per 60 minutes. Like, top 3 in the entire league. That's including McCarr, McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and all those guys. Top 3. Like, he's just, like, let alone just for a young player, he's just been absolutely phenomenal. Like, period. And I think you're right. Like, if this were a cup contending team in the Northeast, you might be hearing like MVP talk about Jason Robertson. But the problem is they're on a likely non-playoff team playing in the Southern United States. So you're just not going to hear nearly as much about him. But yeah, just absolutely outstanding. Also want to give a shout out to Chris Worstel. Hit my DMs this morning. Let me know that he took down the 121 single entry last night on DraftKings. He watches the show quite a bit. He had Chicago as well. He had Calgary 2 to go with them with some expensive defensemen, Yossi and Seth Jones, I believe. So you don't have to, you didn't have to stack. Dallas won last night. You didn't need an expensive stack. You could have just gone with expensive defenseman instead. Worked out for Chris. A different strategy worked out for Jake. Lots of ways to get there on a single slate or on a bigger slate, when there's, not just 2 or 3 games. When you have 6, 7, 8, 10 games, there are multiple ways that you can usually get there. So congrats to Jake. Congrats to Chris. How did you do last night? I actually had another good night. I went about 3.5x, which I'll take that. Had a top 10 finish in the 20 max. It was Chicago and Calgary too that got me there. I did a lot of 3-3 stacking, and Blake Coleman didn't really do a whole lot. I think he was under 10 DK points, so that's one thing that kind of hurt me. But not a bad night. I'll take it, and I'll move along to tonight. How'd you do?
So I made 2 lineups, which was not normal for me. I usually just stick to one, but I couldn't decide between a couple, so I put full Dallas power play in both. And then the one that cashed, I had them with DeBrincat, Kane, and Dante Fabro with Sorokin. And that got me, 75% of my entries back, despite not entering anything higher than the 40 and not cashing the 121. In the 121, I put the Dallas power play with Eberle and McCann with Connor Murphy. And they, Seattle just, I don't know.
Seattle was what Seattle did.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what to make of that team. I'm just very thankful that we don't have to talk about them here today. There are 7 games we do have to talk about on this slate. Before we get too much further, just want to give a special thank you to Yahoo Fantasy, who have been our sponsor for every show so far this season. Today's show including, and if you're a first-time DFS user, or you want to get your feet wet, or you're an experienced DFS user and you just haven't played over on Yahoo, we have a special giveaway for first-time Yahoo users. So stick around for a little later in the show. We have that Yahoo giveaway. Nothing wrong with getting a little bit of free money when you're playing some DFS. Be sure to click the thumbs up button. Click that like button while you're here. Really helps us out. Click the subscribe button. Let's keep this channel growing. Let's keep these shows coming across, every single sport. NASCAR, the Daytona coming up next weekend. Super Bowl's this weekend. MLB was supposed to be right around the corner, but we won't get into that.
They made some progress today, it seemed like.
Yeah. Well, is it progress, or is it just people yelling at Rob Manfred?
I mean,
is
that mutually exclusive?
That's a good point. But yeah, anyways, hopefully baseball is coming back soon. Lots of stuff, lots of shows to talk about here at Awesemo.com. Free premium tools and data up on the site. We have some almost every day. Today being no exception. We have our NBA player projections and we have our NHL ownership projections, both up for free up on the site. We also have a giveaway, a Super Bowl giveaway going on through our Awesemo_com Twitter handle. All you have to do is reply there with whatever you think Joe Burrow or whichever you think of Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford will have more passing yards, and then follow the instructions on the graphic to be entered for a chance to win a free year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's a $1,000 value, and it'll be one of the bigger giveaways that we have this season. So head on over to Twitter, go to Awesemo_com. That's the main Twitter handle, and reply whether you think Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford will have more passing yards. Follow the instructions on the graphic. All right, Josh. We have 7 games to get through. I think this first game is a very, very interesting game. So let's jump right into it. We have the Columbus Blue Jackets with a 3.1 implied goal total. They're going into Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabres have a 3.0 implied goal total. I think when I jumped in our Discord this morning, the very first thing I said was Buff one night. And apparently I am not alone in thinking that it's Buffalo one night, because by our first top stacks run, they're coming in at 24% ownership, right up there with Pittsburgh one amongst the most owned lines on the slate here tonight. You and I talked about ownership and all that a lot at the start of yesterday's show. So if people want to see some ownership talk, we talk about it there. How are you handling this? You're a single lineup guy. I know Buffalo won in this particular matchup as a line that would really interest you. What do you do about a line that might be in one out of every four lineups in your contests?
And at the end of the day, if that ownership, if we get more runs and it's still similar, then like I think I'm going to fade them. Buffalo's not a great team. Yeah, this line is really good. Skinner, Thompson, Tuck. But I just had that ownership, and I'm interested in Pittsburgh one tonight, who coming in around the same percentage. Like, yeah, you can jam in chalk on chalk, but chances are that's going to be pretty popular. It's not always popular, but Pittsburgh one fits pretty comfortably with Buffalo one tonight, so it might be a pretty common build. And I also don't like going standard 4-3-1 when putting chalk with chalk. So, and I don't really know who I'd want to leave off. I don't want to leave off anyone on pit one. I don't want to, you don't want to leave off anyone off a fully correlated line. It just gets a little bit messy. So if this ownership is, even remotely close, I'm probably going to fade Buffalo one. That being said, I think they're in a very, very good spot. I want to believe that their ownership's going to go down because you look on the other side, Line, Jen, or Nyquist, they're coming in around 7% right now. They have a higher total than the Sabres. Liney's coming off a big game. He is banged up, but he did take line rushes and morning skate. And like Buffalo defensively is bad. Dustin Tokarski, and we have to talk about it. He hasn't started in 2 months. He had long COVID. Like he's been symptomatic for 2 months, and he's just getting thrown right into the mix. Like he's not an elite goalie to begin with. So, I think, from an ownership standpoint, I'm just going to go to the Columbus top line here in GPPs. Line A, Jenner for sure. You want to, leave off Nyquist, that's fine. You want to add an Oliver Bjorkstrand to get a full power play stack, or Jakub Voracek, you can. But, Columbus one for me. If I see some of that ownership coming off Buffalo one, going to Columbus one, if, Buffalo gets down to like 12, 15%, then maybe I'll consider Buffalo 1-3. I think they're a very good play in MME. I just, from what I want to do tonight, I don't want to play two very chalky lines. If I do go, pit one, I haven't really decided yet, but pit one is one of my favorite spots, which we'll get to later. But, at the corner ownership, going to fade Buffalo one. I do like a one-off Peyton Krebs. He's min-priced on the top power play. He'll also get, depth matchups of Columbus 5-on-5. Like, you can do much worse for min price there. So I don't mind one-offing Peyton Krebs because he's going to be way, way lower owned to that top line, and he gets that power play time. So, I do like both top lines here. I'm going to lean towards Columbus just from an ownership standpoint in GPPs, and I do like some Peyton Krebs.
So I'll say that I initially liked the Columbus second line at the outset of the day because Chinnikov, Sillinger, and Voracek have actually been good together this year. Like Sillinger and Voracek in general have been a good duo for this team. Relatively speaking, like everything's relative when you're talking about like a bottom 8 team in the league. But Sillinger and Voracek have been good. Chinnikov is a shooter, but then I see them coming in at their ownership at triple their top stack rate. And I'm wondering, is that the filler that I really want to use here tonight? And there aren't really a lot of like super expensive lines, right? I mean, it depends what you want to do with like Colorado or Toronto power play stacking and all that, but there's not a line at 22,000 or above on DraftKings here tonight, right? Like I think there's some expensive Pittsburgh over on FanDuel, but like
21-4 on DraftKings is the most expensive line.
Yeah, like I don't feel a need for like a $9,500 line or a $6,000 duo or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's what's kind of keeping me away from Columbus 2 here. I'm with you on Columbus 1. As long as line A is in, I think they're perfectly fine to use. And I agree with you. You can just 2-man them. You don't need to full stack 2 out of 3. I think regardless, if I'm 2-man stacking, Patrick Laine is one of the two. Yeah, he's not the guy I'm leaving off on that line. So, yeah, I agree with you on Columbus 1. I think I'm still going to go. I'm still going to be in on Buffalo 1, I think. I'm not so certain that they're going to come in at 24% as a full trio.
Me either.
I think we're going to see them come maybe 20% or a little bit lower. And, 17, 18%, something like that. I can definitely live with Buffalo top line in what is a really, really good matchup at home to a very bad Columbus team. So I think I'm still going to be in on Buffalo 1. They're going to be my Chicago from yesterday. Sometimes you just got to play the chalk, man. So I'm in on Buffalo 1. I'm in on Columbus 1 as well. I think Columbus 2 was playable. I just don't personally see the need to go super cheap on this particular slate. I will say if you do need a very cheap filler or cheap 2-man or whatever, I think Columbus 2 is in play. On the blue line, they're really starting to price up our buddies, Peak and Gavrikov. Gavrikov's been pretty consistently 3K or above over the last few weeks. Peak, I don't think he's been 3,200 ever in his career, but he is playing a lot of minutes. What do you see for defensemen here?
Yeah, if you need a block shot, punt, Peak and Gavrikov still are okay at that price. On the Buffalo side, if you're not going to correlate with Dahlin, and I know you called him the East Coast Mikey Anderson, but Henry Jokiharju getting, secondary power play time. He is playing over 20 minutes. He's min price. You can do worse. Maybe just Mikey Anderson worse, but you can do worse.
I mean, is he Chris Weidman?
Oh man, Chris Weidman, get that guy off the power play.
I mean, well, thankfully we don't have to talk about it. Yeah, thankfully we don't have to talk about him too much tonight, but
also Robert Haig, if you want to, I think, if you want shot blocking from this game under 3K, Robert Haig's the guy.
Yeah, he's absolutely the guy that typically blocks the most shots, at least per 60 minutes for them. All right, let's move it along. Let's get to our next game of Pittsburgh with a 3.5 implied goal total. Going into Ottawa, the Ottawa Senators have a 2.6 implied goal total. I know one of the big news items for this game was that Casey DeSmith would be starting for Pittsburgh. Now, I don't think super highly of either Pittsburgh goalie, but I at least think Tristan Jarry is a starting NHL goalie. I don't know. I don't know if I can say the same for DeSmith. Now, I'm not going to run out and just start slamming in a bunch of Senators here. But I think DeSmith is a clear step down from Jarry, and Jarry's not like an elite goalie to begin with. So that's kind of where I'm at with the goaltending in this game. Where are you at with your skaters?
Yeah. That Ottawa top line is really cheap, but they're going to get that Crosby matchup. Their ownership's not that bad. And I was like, I don't really want to go into Crosby, so maybe I'll go down to, Formenton, Paul Brown, but they're coming in at similar ownership. Like they're really over leveraged. It is a much better matchup getting Carter, McGinn, Kapanen, and Crosby, Rust, Gensel. So, again, you just said there isn't much need for really cheap 2-man tonight unless you're doing some crazy power play stuff. But like Formenton, Brown at 5,900, both on the top power play. Like I know they're higher owned than Chinakhov and Voracek and Sillinger, but they don't get too much power. I'd rather get the power play time here with Formenton and Brown going up against, Casey Smith. That being said, like in 1 to 3, I don't know if I can prioritize Ottawa here. And MME, I think they're a very interesting play, just because they have a low total at home. And especially that top line, because their ownership is fairly, it's not super high, and they're fairly inexpensive. And they're going to get a bad goalie here. So I think in MME, I'd definitely be drawn to the Senators here. In 1 to 3, I don't know if I can prioritize anything. If anything, I'd probably have a little bit of Formenton or Formenton Brown, something like that. On the Pittsburgh side, I really, really do like that top line. Matt Murray has been playing well of late, but Senators PK, Senators defensively, there's just nothing to offer there. So maybe Murray bails them out again, but the Penguins relatively cheap on DraftKings for what they've been, 21-4. On FanDuel, they're over 27K, so you're going to have to get pretty spicy to get them in. FanDuel pricing has been pretty tough. But on DraftKings at that price, you don't really have to worry about it. So I really do like Pitt 1 here. I want to like other Pittsburgh lines here, but like the line combos and the minutes are just a concern for me. So Pitt 1, some top 6 in Ottawa and MME.
I'm going to start with the Ottawa side, and I want to talk about the top line initially. And this is something I brought up in the Power Plays article a couple of days ago. I believe Jeff Votler has the Power Plays article up for today over at Awesemo.com, free to read almost every day here at Awesemo for our NHL coverage. A couple of days ago when writing about Brady Tkachuk, one thing I said was, with Josh Norris and Drake Batherson hurt, like, yeah, it sucks losing those guys offensively, but those guys are both shooters, and neither Stützle or Adam Gaudette are really like huge shooters, right? So theoretically, there should be more shots available for Brady Tkachuk to take than there had been earlier in the season, because that was a big knock on Tkachuk basically for the first half of the year, was that his shot rate had plummeted from what it was over the first couple seasons of his career, right? So first 3 seasons of his career. So I think there are more shots available for that Ottawa top line to take, for Brady Tkachuk to take, on that Ottawa top line. So, and his price actually came down a bit from the last game when he scored a couple goals. So like Brady Tkachuk, I think if you don't want to play the entire Ottawa top line, I get it. I think Brady Tkachuk really does make sense here as a one-off in tournaments here tonight. He's the shooter on that line. I think it stands to reason if they score a few goals, he's definitely going to be involved. So I think at the least, I like a Brady Tkachuk one-off from Ottawa. I agree with you with the second line that, you know, if you need that cheap power play duo for your more, you know, to fit in your more expensive stacks, I think that's just fine. They haven't been that great together. That line is coming in at 43% shot share, 42% of the scoring chances. What's going on is I think they're shooting like 16% or 17% or something like that. That's not going to last. It's just a matter of when that floor falls through. So I think for Ottawa, it would just be some one-offs up front, maybe some one-off Formanton or one-off Brown or one-off Tkachuk's, just stuff like that. On the Pittsburgh side, I agree with you on the top line. Their last 10 games, I want to say this about Pittsburgh. They've been a lot more high event than they were earlier on in the season. Over their last 10 games, the Pittsburgh top line is giving up 60 shot attempts per 60 minutes. That is very high event for them. That's another reason why I don't mind Brady Tkachuk here, is because Pittsburgh's really starting to give it up. And if they're giving it up with Casey DeSmith in net, there could be some issues. So I like Pittsburgh one. I do honestly like the Pittsburgh third line with Evan Rodriguez. Rodriguez and Heinen have typically been very good together this year. Small sample, but 62% of the scoring chances are Pittsburgh's when those two are on the ice. So I think Heinen and Erod actually make a nice, like very like inexpensive, super low owned, secondary, tertiary stack, whatever you want to call it. So like an Erod Heinen 2-man, I think is just fine. On the blue line, as per usual, not a lot that I like from Pittsburgh outside of correlating. I think Matheson is fine for 3,300, but I don't know if he's like a priority for me or anything. Zaitsev was up over 20 minutes in the last game, still at min price like him. Anybody else?
Yeah, correlate with Tang, play Zaitsev. Chabot, I think, is fine under 6K as well. He's an interesting one-off tonight. You can correlate or one-off him, I think, but Zaitsev min price, definitely interesting for me.
All right. Just want to give a shout out to T-Strack. He says in chat, "Hi guys, I came 5th and 6th in the big GPP on DK last night. Thanks for the help. Name is Astrack. Congrats on finishing 5th and 6th. Getting those two lineups that high should lead to a cashing night. Depends if you maxed or not, I guess. We'll ask. I think Jake would be the expert on. I don't want to flame him too hard the day after he got a win, but the expert on finishing 6th, but not profiting on a slate or something like that. That had happened to him a lot this year, but he came through last night. Hopefully a lot brighter days ahead, especially with that Fantasy Hockey World Championship on the horizon. With the Daytona right around the corner, we are offering our Awesemo Plus NASCAR package for less than $2 per cup race this season. That's $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. This pass gives you access to our driver projections, our ownership projections, our top drivers tool, and that will give you the edge you need in NASCAR DFS. Use the promo code GREENFLAG, all capital letters, all one word. That's GREENFLAG at checkout or simply click the link in the description of this video to activate. This offer is valid through February 20th. That is next Sunday, I believe. So get in to get some NASCAR, less than $2 per race this season. Promo code Green Flag, all capital letters, all one word. All right. Washington, 3.6 implied goal total. They're going into Montreal. The Habs have a 2.5 implied goal total. Alex Ovechkin will not be in the lineup for this game for COVID reasons. It looks like Joe Snively back on the top line with Tom Wilson, and then a second line of Connor Sheary, Nicholas Backstrom, Daniel Sprong. I was going through our top stacks tool, and I was wondering why Washington 2 was so highly owned. And then I remembered who they were playing tonight. But at the same time, I see Connor Sheary and Daniel Sprong in a line that is a third highest line by ownership here tonight. No Alex Ovechkin, but this Montreal team is absolutely horrific. Should note they just fired their coach and brought in Marty St. Louis. So do they get a new coach bump here tonight, Josh?
Yeah. I mean, if they get off to a rough start, Marty St. Louis is putting on the pads in the intermission and hopping on. He can't be any worse than some of these guys. But like, I hate using the caps. I hate using the caps at 5-on-5. I hate using the caps even more when Ovechkin's not in. But like, you have to consider them tonight, I think. There's just nothing that I want to full stack or even take parts of here. Like that second line is wildly over leveraged. And it's not even that great. Like I like Sprong and I like Sheary and I like Backstrom, but like together, I don't know. I don't really want to play Snively, Kuznetsov, Wilson. Like that just does not strike me as a good line. Like I know Snively has good numbers in the AHL, I think it is. I don't know. Don't mind a Lars Eller one off. Fourth line Lars Eller power play one. Like, I don't know. I think you can use that second line. There's just nothing that I want to full stack. It's just, I think if you want to one off a Tom Wilson, one off a Connor Sheary, two-man Sheary Sprong, or use like a Backstrom Carlson, something like that, I think that's fine. There's just nothing that I really like to full stack. And it's just a really, really good matchup too. It's just these lines are so bad. I kind of like Montreal 1 tonight. It's crazy because like they've been chalky and they've been underperforming. But tonight they're coming in at 1.5%. They're going to see a fair bit of Kuznetsov, Wilson, Sniva. I can't imagine that's going to be a good defensive line. I don't know if I'm going to get to them in 1 to 3, but if I was making 20 and I had 2 of 20, I'm going to be 5x the field on Montreal 1 tonight. And I feel pretty good about that. They're fully correlated. Capitals without Ovechkin, is honestly a downgrade defensively, as crazy as that sounds. They have goalie issues. So I think getting over the field, and it won't take much to get over the field on Montreal 1, is an interesting play tonight. And if you want to go on narrative street and say they get the Marty St. Louis bump, sure, that's fine. But Montreal 1 for me, nothing full stack wise on the Capitals. I'll pick and choose some one-offs or two-mans for the power play exposure, just because the Habs goalies and penalty kill are just absolutely brutal. So yeah, that's where I am on that.
I honestly cannot believe how bad the Montreal Canadiens were. Like under Dominic, there has to be a bump for the new coach, just because the last coach can't get any worse than their last coach. Like honestly, they were giving up the most shot attempts in the league at 5-on-5 since Christmas, and also taking the fewest shot attempts in the league at 5-on-5. Like that never happens. Like usually there's at least some sort of give and take, not just take the entire time. These guys are just giving up a ton and not taking very many. They have to be somewhat better. I agree with you on Montreal 1. They're a line that I have circled here tonight for this reason. The top line without Ovechkin is a 45% shot share line. They're just not good. And I can't imagine Joe Snively is really going to balance that out. Like Evgeny Kuznetsov, as for his career, has typically not been a good defensive center. I can't imagine Joe Snively is going to step in and play, be an excellent defensive winger in his 5th NHL game or whatever it is. Like, that's not going to be a good defensive top line. I think Montreal won is definitely in play here. So, yeah, I agree with you. Montreal won. I just honestly, man, I don't know what to do with this Caps team. I really don't know what to do with them with a 3.6 total without Alex Ovechkin. And it's not like they're just missing Ovechkin. It's no Ovechkin, no Mantha, no Oshie, right? Those are their 3 best wingers, depending what you think of Tom Wilson.
There's the 3 best wingers.
Hey, man, only one of those guys went to the All-Star game this year. So I'm just saying. I'm kind of stuck on what to do with Washington. I do like the 2-man of Sheary and Backstrom. I played them a fair bit this year to some success, not as much as I'd like, but they're controlling 59% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice, taking 38 scoring chances per 60 minutes by themselves. If I have to do anything here, it's probably playing some Washington too. Most certainly Backstrom and Sheary, also like Montreal won. On the blue line, like, I don't know if any Montreal defenseman will ever find his way into my lineup again this year. I don't know if a min-price Jeff Petrie finds his way into my lineup. Like, I guess Ben Sherrod 3,800 could be fine, but I typically reserve him for like shot blocking situations, and I don't see that here tonight. Anything on the other side, maybe? What do you like for defenseman here?
I mean, outside of Carlson, maybe Orlov as a one-off. That's really about it. There's nothing on Montreal's side that I want to play.
Yeah, it's just a complete wasteland over in Habsland. And it sucks to say that as a Habs fan, but we have to live in reality. We have no other choice. Let's get to our next game. Do we? Carolina, 3.0 implied goal total going into Boston. The Boston Bruins have a 2.7 implied goal total. Lots of big news here. Obviously, Brad Marchand was suspended. He took a stick swing at Tristan Jarry. I don't know. Everybody was telling me Brad Marchand was this reformed guy, and then he gets a 7-game suspension for swinging his stick at a goalie. Like, come on. Marchand out. Patrice Bergeron out. Looks like a top line of Taylor Hall, Eric Holla, and David Pasternak, which had been their second line. Craig Smith joining Charlie Coyle and Jake DeBrusk. On the Carolina side, Andrei Svechnikov is back on the second line with Vincent Trocheck, and that's because they're expecting Teuvo Teravainen to be back tonight for Carolina, skating on the top line with Sebastian Aho and Martin Necas. I am very much interested in this game, Josh. I know some people may want to skip it, but let's face it, Carolina has a 3 total on the road. We can't ignore that. What do you think here?
Yeah. I just don't know. We were trying to figure out how Boston's going to match. Like, do they send out Hall against Aho? Do they send out that 4th line against Aho? Like, because they use that 4th line sometimes. We just don't know. What I do know is I am interested in Carolina because they're cheap and they're low owned in a much better matchup than it was yesterday. If you're in the Boston media, you're absolutely upset that Marchand got 6 games. They said it should be 1 game max. Like, get out of here. Took a stick swing at the goalie. Anyway, Teravainen in. I like that top line. Teravainen, Aho, Necas. I don't know if the matchups really matter at this point. Like Hall, Pasternak, Hall have been okay, but they're nowhere near like Bergeron, Marchand, and Smith. So there's not that elite line to shut them down with. So I do like that top line if Teravainen's in. And even if he is in, I do also like that second line, Svechnikov, Trocheck, Jarvis. They're very high event though. So if I knew Boston's going 1-1, 2-2, I maybe would have some interest on the other side, DeBrusk, Coyle, Smith. I don't know. Like the Bruins just don't. These line combinations outside of the top line we haven't seen. I don't know how big of a sample there is on DeBrusk, Coyle, Smith. I can't imagine it'd be very big. I'm just not super interested in playing Boston tonight. So I think the top 6 of Carolina is definitely in play. even in 1-3, I'm going to consider them an MME. You don't need much to get over the field here. I think, this is, for the road matchups outside of Pittsburgh, I think this is my favorite road matchup, road team. We'll talk about Tampa later, but I think, Carolina's in a really good spot to take advantage of a pretty banged up Bruins team.
Yeah, the one thing I want to mention, especially with the banged upness of the Boston Bruins here, Marchand and Bergeron are very crucial to that penalty kill. When those two are off the ice, the expected goals against on the penalty kill go up by 30%. Now, that's just with the second or third penalty kill unit on the ice. Now, they're going to have to throw in an additional unit to replace that Bergeron and Marchand unit. All that is to say, the fact that the Boston Bruins have the second most time shorthanded in the league since Christmas and have just lost by far their best two penalty killers, I think we should be at least looking at the Carolina top six, considering most of those players skate on the power play. Svechnikov and Trocheck on the second line, Teravainen and Aho on the top line. Like, Svechnikov and Trocheck have typically had excellent numbers together. Like, we're talking, depending what winger they're playing with, 60, 70 shot attempts per 60 minutes, like very good offensively. And they're going to go into, it could be a good line, DeBrusk, Coyle, Smith, but I'm not terrified of that line defensively. Like, Coyle's fine. DeBrusk demanded to be traded a couple months ago because they weren't using him, and now all of a sudden he's on the second line because of injuries. Craig Smith is a very good player, but that, you have to take a stand at certain points. I think Carolina too is definitely in play for me here tonight. We have them coming in with very reasonable ownership. I see them in our top stacks tool coming in at about 2%. We have them at about 3% to be a top two stack. Same goes for the top line. So I think either of the top six lines are fine, but I think Svechnikov and Trocheck are going to be in a very good matchup against Coyle, Smith, and DeBrusk here. So I do like that Carolina second line in this game, particularly Svechnikov and Trocheck. On the Boston side, I just don't know if I really want to get to them here because I'm looking at the ownership and, the second line's coming in basically on ownership, which is fine. The top line's coming in with some positive leverage, which is actually good to see if you want to use some Boston one. It's just, I think, like, a big part of Boston's profile is the power play. And I'm wondering, no Marchand and no Bergeron on the power play. Carolina's penalty kill is elite, like super elite as it is anyway. Like, do I really want to attack that Carolina penalty kill? So, like, I think Boston one is fine to play. I'm not going to be into them in particular. I'm going to be in more on the Carolina side, particularly Carolina two. On the blue line, I don't know if there's anybody that stuck out to you in particular. I noticed that some of the Carolina D prices have come down a little bit. So I think like a Brett Pesce at 3,200, I think is just fine. Anybody else really stick out?
Really, if you want to correlate power play with Tony D, I think that's fine. Boston side, Brandon Carlo might be busy blocking shots tonight, so don't mind him at 2,800. Maybe even like Riley 32, but I think Carlo is my guy on the Bruins.
Yeah, I do like Carlo as well. I see a super chat at $4.95 super chat. Thank you very much from Nappy SJ Sharks fan. Says shout out Cliffy. Well, I'll say Josh as well. Split first place with one person in the $40 5K yesterday. Dallas 1, Calgary 2, Sorokin, Chychrun, and Cedar. Man, that Calgary second line. We'll talk about them in a little bit. I'm just glad to see them succeed because there's a lot of players on that line that I've been following, in particular, just their careers. It's just a really good line, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But congrats to you, SJ Sharks fan, and thank you very much for that $5 super chat. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's NHL $5,000 baller and the $1 million baller for the big game for the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday. We also have a free roll running for the big game on Yahoo, with first place getting $1,000 and a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can find the link to that contest in the video description below, and make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right. New Jersey Devils, 2.4 implied goal total. They're going into St. Louis. The St. Louis Blues have a 3.7 implied goal total. Ryan O'Reilly, Braden Shen, Pavel Buchnevich, your top line for St. Louis, with the second line of Thomas, Kyrou, Tarasenko. Still no Jack Hughes on the Devils side of things here. I know that's probably going to scare some people away. I still think New Jersey might have a couple lines that might be in play here. I know it's a tough matchup for against St. Louis. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of do like that Devils top line. Hischier, Bratt, Sharangovich. They're going to see O'Reilly, Shen, and Buchnevich. They have not been good. The thing is, the thing that gives me a little bit of pause on the Devils here in that matchup is they've just been so low event at both ends of the ice, the St. Louis top line, that maybe, in 1-3, that's probably going to make them get cut for me, just because, O'Reilly's offensive game is non-existent now, but he has been very good defensively. That line's pretty low event. Maybe it gets a little bit higher event now with, Shen on his wing instead of, Perron or Barbashev, something like that. But, that could be a case to use the Devils top line here in MME. I kind of, it depends what the line is, because I know they practice VC, Zaka, Tatar, and then they did that the other day, and then they swapped Bachwist with VC, they swapped Bachwist with Tatar. But if it's Zaka, Tatar, if they are together, again, the need for super cheap low-owned two-mans tonight, not much there, but like Zaka, Tatar, two-man getting a very, very high event line in Kyrou, Thomas, Tarasenko, I think you can use them. Same can be said for Janssen and Mercer, but, I think Zaka being on power play 1 would be the reason to use them. So New Jersey 1, I'll have some in MME. Don't mind a little Zaka, Tatar, two-man. Again, I don't know if I'm going to get to anything in 1-3 on the Devil side. On the Blue side, like that top line, they've just been so bad, so low event. They haven't been creating. So for me, if I'm going to go to a Blues line, it's going to be that Blues second line, Kyrou, Thomas, Tarasenko. Their Corsi numbers aren't great. They're a sub 50% line, but they have been generating a ton both ways. But, at least offensively, they've been generating a ton. So, going up against this Devils team, I think it's probably enough. So if I'm going to go to a Blues line here, like they're not even that highly owned right now, coming in projected 4 or 5%. So Blues for me, Thomas, Tarasenko, Kyrou. On the Devils, there's some stuff up and down in MME I'd probably consider.
Yeah, I'm stunned with the Blues here. I was pretty much just going to be like, no, I'm not playing them. Like, I really don't like the line combinations that they have here. But I look at their ownership. 5% for the top line, 4% for the second line. Like, if we're going to get those ownership levels, which for a team that has a 3.7 total at home, like, I don't see how we don't play them. You know what I mean? Like, it feels reckless not to play them when they're coming in at that ownership with that total. I think I'd be in on St. Louis too. Like, Ryan O'Reilly and Pavel Buchnevich in their sample together this year have been basically average. And that's just mind-blowing to me, because if you look at Pavel Buchnevich playing with literally anybody else on the St. Louis roster, they're blowing the doors off the competition. I still think there's something that hasn't really come along for Ryan O'Reilly this year. His defensive numbers have been great, but his offensive numbers haven't come around. And I looked at some of his micro stats, well below average shot rate, well below average in transition, well below average in playmaking. Like, there's a lot not to like about Ryan O'Reilly's offensive season this year. Of course, now that I'm slagging him, he's obviously going to score a hat trick here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's an automatic lock. But I just don't think that top line is very good. And I think they're going to go into a tough Hischier-Bratt matchup. Like I think the Hischier-Bratt line is better. So I'd rather play St. Louis too. St. Louis too is going to go into the Devils no depth because their depth is gone with those injuries. And, St. Louis second line hasn't been great defensively, but they're still at least generating a lot offensively, 34 scoring chances per 60 minutes, nearly 60 shot attempts per 60 minutes. So, yeah, St. Louis 2 for me out of this game. I don't mind New Jersey 1 if you get there organically. I'm not going to force them in. On the blue line, I don't know if there's anybody that sticks out to you in particular. There's nobody that really sticks out to me. Maybe Subban for 3,400, but no, I just don't think there's a defenseman I'm going to take out of this game unless I'm correlating.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like, I don't really want to play Krug. Parayko, maybe at 5K. Nico Mikkola, top pair, 2,600, maybe. Like, there's just nothing like going, yep, need to put him in with my team.
Yeah, exactly. There's just nothing twisting my arm, so I'm not going to force anything. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including our player projections, our ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on with these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base packages. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for those looking to multi-enter contests. So stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. Bunch of shows coming up after us, both NBA and NFL. We have our NBA double dose coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern. That's your deeper dive, followed by the live before lock, starting with Laffy and Adam. Again, that's at 5 o'clock Eastern. And then later tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, Laffy is back hosting, but he's got Eric and Ben beside him for the Super Bowl ranking show. So if you're digging into the Super Bowl at all this weekend, be sure to check out that ranking show with Laffy, Eric, and Ben at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, we got a couple games to get through here, Josh. Let's get through this first one. Toronto going into Calgary. Toronto has a 3.2 implied goal total. Calgary has a 2.8 implied goal total. The Flames just played last night, so I assume Dan Vladash is going to be in net tonight for Calgary. Obviously, two good teams here. Probably stuff to play on both sides. What do you like?
Yeah. Like, one of the highest positive leverage spots tonight is the Calgary top line. Again, like they were last night too. And they're going to get a fair amount of that third line for Toronto. Now, that third line for Toronto has actually been okay defensively. But okay isn't really going to stop that Calgary top line. I know they're back to back, but they are home. Jack Campbell has not been the same since, the past few weeks, months, maybe. I don't know. He got COVID and then, his positioning, I don't know. I'm not a goalie coach, but he hasn't, his numbers haven't been as good. I kind of like going back to Calgary top line here tonight, just from an ownership perspective. Like, they're coming in under 5%. Anytime you can get an elite line, and they are elite, under 5% fully correlated at home, like, you got to take some chances here. It's the same thing with the Blues, right? The Blues second line coming in the same ownership percentage as Calgary top line. These are two lines that you're going to be like, wow, got to play them at that ownership. So Calgary top line, definitely in play for me. That second line coming in around 3%, they are going to see a fair bit of Matthews. But, like, okay. They were in a not the best matchup yesterday, and they went absolutely, use whatever adjectives you want there. They did the thing. We'll just say they did the thing. So I think going back to Calgary too, I think makes some sense here as well. On the Leaf side, I know this is a tough matchup for Matthews and Marner, but it's not Markstrom coming off a shutout. Maybe it is. I mean, because he's coming off a shutout. But if it is Dan Vladash and Matthews is so expensive, and that's the problem. Like 9,700. I don't even think McDavid's at 9,700 this year. And this is not the best matchup. But in GPPs, that could mean that Toronto top line comes in. How often can you get, Matthews and Marner for around 8-9%? And that's what's drawing me to them in MME. In 1 to 3, I will consider them. I don't know if they're going to make it, but just because like they're seemingly overpriced in a tough matchup, I think I'm going to consider them in MME. You want to go to that second line, I think that's fine. They're going to see a fair bit of Monahan. And again, that Monahan line is very good defensively as well. The only thing that makes me like the Leafs more is their ownership, and they're probably going to see Vodash, which is a fairly stark drop off from Jacob Markstrom. So both these top sixes are definitely in play for me, especially in MME. There is a lot to consider in 1 to 3 as well.
Yeah, the one thing I want to mention is some line matching, because we talked about that yesterday about how Calgary had been changing some stuff up. We should note that yesterday they did send out the Calgary second line most often against Max Pacioretty. So I think, they're probably going to see a fair bit of Austin Matthews here tonight. And honestly, I think I'd rather have Matthews play against the Lindholm line than the Backlund line at this point, because I honestly think that Backlund line is just really firing on all cylinders right now. Like, it's one of those things, like they're a very good line, but something's clicking at, right now at this particular point in time that's just giving them that extra 5 or 10% or whatever. So I honestly kind of like Toronto too a little bit more here tonight, but I'm going to be honest, like there's not a whole lot I'm running out to add into my lineups from the Toronto side here. Like, Calgary's just a very good team. And I think if I do anything with Toronto here tonight, it's probably just full man stacking the second line. They're coming in very reasonably priced, coming in with reasonable ownership, 6, 7, 8%. They're coming in. We have them projected for nearly 30 points as a trio on DraftKings, which is just fine for a second line at that price. So I don't mind some Toronto too. If people want to get there, no problem with that either. Calgary too is definitely in play for me. I'll just say it. I kind of like the entire top 6 for both teams. And I think, with this being a 6 total, it probably isn't super surprising. I'm just going to watch my Calgary 1 exposure. I'm not going to go super heavy. I'll probably have them at like 20% and try to get like 5x the field or something like that. On the blue line, Jake Muzzin looks like he's going to be back in tonight. He's min price 2,500, but he's been just slightly better than Jeff Petrie this year, at least fantasy wise. What do you think?
Yeah, and the Leafs are going 11-7, so minutes might be an issue outside of like Riley and Brody, who always play like 700 minutes. So I don't know. Nothing super exciting on either side. Shillington's price has come down to 3,700. Noah Hannafin 3,200, I think, are fine. Tanev, for some reason, min price again. So I like Tanev.
All right, one more game to get through. We'll get through it quickly. If everybody could, before we get out of here, throw us a thumbs up, click that like button. Really helps us out. Click the subscribe button. Those subscriptions are what grow this channel and keep this show coming on a regular basis. And of course, click the bell to get alerts whenever we do go live. All right, let's get to this last game. Tampa Bay is going into Colorado. Tampa Bay has 2.9 implied goal total. Colorado has a 3.2 implied goal total. As our chat showed a little bit earlier, Nikita Kucherov expected to be back for Tampa Bay here tonight, looking at slate on the top line with Braden Point. Nathan McKinnon not quite ready yet to return for Colorado, so it looks like the Avs are running back the same lineup they went into the All-Star break with. All right, Josh, what do you like?
All right, I'll start with Colorado. I think this is a tough matchup for Colorado 1. I want to play them, like, I think it's fine. I don't know if I'm going to be running out to play Colorado 1 tonight with Calgary on the slate, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. I think there'll be a secondary option for me with Kucherov back. I know Cirelli has moved down to that second line center where he's probably more suited for, a better role. I kind of like that second line for Colorado. Kadri Burakovsky. You want to include Newhook, you can. The price on Kadri is kind of crazy. He's more expensive than Mikko Rantanen. 8,300 for Kadri. I just like these prices. they're kind of like priced like the Blues were for no reason a few weeks ago when like everyone on the Blues was like 7,800 for absolutely no reason. So I think it's a price thing. Like I don't know how much Colorado I'm gonna get to. Like again, like Tampa's a pretty good team. They got Vasilevsky going, so like I just don't know how I could prioritize Colorado tonight. I do like Tampa's top line without McKinnon. That top line's still good. Like they're still good. Like their numbers are good. They're just not what they are with McKinnon. So I think, Kucherov is properly priced this time. He's not coming back at ridiculously low price, but I think you can definitely get to some Tampa 1 here. I think that's my favorite line from this game. Really, if you want to use some Colorado top 6 in MME, I think that's fine. Tampa top 6 in MME, definitely fine. I think, 1 to 3 or even 20 max, Tampa 1 is the consideration for me.
So in this kind of situation where I see the two top lines relatively close together, they're not exactly, I don't have them for the same projections. Our projections don't have them for the same projections, but I have them for relatively close together, and so does Awesemo. So when I see that happen, I just go to ownership, and I see like the ownership is coming in relatively the same as well. So I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer about which top line to use here tonight. I will say that the Colorado top line has been like, they're not the same without Nathan McKinnon, but they're still really good. 68 shot attempts generated per 60 minutes, 36 scoring chances generated per 60 minutes. I think that I'm going to be at least considering the Colorado top line again here tonight. Part of it is just the ownership coming in at, single digit ownership. Anytime, even without Nathan McKinnon, anytime I can get the Colorado top line in a 7-game slate, a single digit ownership, I'm in. So Colorado 1. Tampa 1, I think, should be in play as well. They're also getting positive leverage. They're also a very good line. 63% of the shot share together when they're together this year. So both top lines for me. I also like Colorado too. I know what you're saying about Kadri, but I don't think that Tampa second line is very good defensively. Like the best you can say is that they play to a slow pace. And if Colorado can pick that pace up, I think they can do some damage. So I don't mind Colorado too as a filler, but it's mostly the top lines for me out of this game. On the blue line, Sam Girard looks like he's still going to be on the top power play unit. His price is very reasonable at 4,300. Anybody else stick out to you in this?
Tays one off 5,200, definitely. If you want to go up to Makar, that's fine as well. Tays is the guy I'm looking at. Hedman, I guess is fine because sometimes he's in the 8Ks at 6,400. I think it's fine. McDonough, 3,100 stands out. He'll see some big minutes.
Yeah, he will. I won't. So I'm not playing tonight, but we have to get out of here. We have NBA coming up in a couple hours, and then our NFL Super Bowl show just after that. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies here tonight. I'm going chalk on the hat trick pick. I'm going with Tage Thompson, and my goalies are Andre Vasilevsky and Frederik Andersen. Who you got?
I have those two goalies as well. I also marked down Ullmark, Matt Murray, and Merzlikins. And then my hat trick pick will also be chalky. I'm going to go Jake Gensel.
All right, Jake Gensel, Tage Thompson, your hat trick picks for tonight. NBA coming up in a couple hours. We're going to be off for 23, but we will be back tomorrow with another NHL show. So until then, for Josh, for Mike, I'm Slim Cliffy saying good luck tonight, everybody.
Boo, boo, Jay. Boo, boo.